Hi, welcome to Supervisor Spotlight. This is Angie Carpenter, Town of Islip Supervisor, welcoming you to our latest edition. We are here in the studios at Long Island MacArthur Airport, Long Island News Radio. Thank you very much for allowing us to use your studios. And today we have with us a guest, someone who's no stranger to Long Island and its economy especially, and that's Kevin Law, who is the president and CEO of the Long Island Association. And so many people may not know, Long Island Association, regional chamber of commerce, but it is huge, in terms of other like organizations. Tell us about the LIA.
Sure. The Long Island Association is actually celebrating its 92nd birthday.
Get out.
We've been around for 92 years. We had actually a big celebration for our 90th anniversary a few years ago. And we started off with our offices being in Penn Station. The Long Island Railroad was privately owned, and they were trying to generate businesses to come out to Long Island and to be, which would help, provide residents and other activities out here, which would then become customers of the Long Island Railroad.
Oh my God, how successful were they?
Exactly. And so we then moved to the Garden City Hotel, and then their offices went out to Patchogue. And then into Islip in Hauppauge, the Islip portion of Hauppauge. Mm-hmm. And now we've been in Melville for the last 12 years. And as you said, we sort of act as Long Island's Chamber of Commerce. We don't take any money from the government. We get all our money from either dues or from special events we do. And we work closely with the local chambers of commerces too. And they tend to focus on things at the municipal level. Mm-hmm. And the LIA, we tend to focus on things either at the county seats in Hauppauge and Mineola, but primarily in Albany.
I find it's very interesting because, early on in my community involvement career, I was an entrepreneur, and I think, those entrepreneurial, blood still runs through my veins, very sensitive to the business community, and was involved in the local Chamber of Commerce and got involved in the Long Island Association, and this is long before my tenure in government. So I worked with two of your predecessors, Jim LaRocca, who was the president at the time when I was, more involved, and then Matt Crossan after him, and find that now the focus, certainly you're there for the entire business community and promote the Long Island economy, but I sense that there's more of an appreciation, if you will, and a recognition of the importance of the small businesses to the general economy of Long Island.
Well, you're so right, Angie. There are about 100,000 legitimate businesses in Nassau and Suffolk counties. When I say legitimate, I mean those who are actually paying taxes.
Exactly.
92,000 of the 100,000 have 20 employees or less.
Wow, that's huge.
Yeah, so when people say, and it's often said, that small businesses are the backbone of the Long Island economy, it's so true. So, again, 92,000 of the 100,000 are less than 20 employees. Mm-hmm. And so they're critically important to the economy. And also when it gives us diversity. And so when we hit a rough patch, like the Great Recession of the mid-2000s, mm-hmm. we're not a one-company town. And Long Island tends to bear the brunt of recessions better than other regions of the country. Now, if your particular business was one of them, you don't feel that way.
Exactly.
But in the great majority of Long Islanders, we tend to sometimes be hit early and we recover earlier.
Well, that diversification certainly is key because many, many years ago, no secret, the majority of industries revolved around the defense industry, right. The airline industry and everything. And certainly we have our pockets and a lot of that still here on Long Island. But I kind of remember this when I was involved in my business, that it was more in the 80% range that we used to say 80% of all of the businesses on Long Island are small businesses, and now you're telling me 92%.
Right.
So obviously there's been a shift towards more entrepreneurial, endeavors.
Which is good. And, when people are being creative, and Long Island is one, we have great schools. And two, we have, great businesses that also train people to want to maybe go out and try to strike out on their own. So we have quite the entrepreneurial type of spirit here. And so people aren't afraid to venture out and try to start their own business. And some of that was forced upon us, as you said.
Exactly.
When we lost a lot of the defense jobs and our defense industry shrunk, it's still significant out here, but not like its heyday. A lot of those people had great skills that they were able to transfer into the technology, and into healthcare, and into other high-tech areas because they had a good scientific or engineering background. And so a place with a lot of engineers tends to do well because those folks are creative and they could diversify in many different ways. They know how to build something in one particular sector, and some of those skills are transferable to other sectors. And so that helped a little bit too.
You know, hearing you talk about that, the fact that people, you know, maybe out of a sense of need, developed the skills and started businesses and everything. But I find that a lot of those small businesses are, in essence, kind of incubators for other businesses. Because I know myself, a number of the people that worked for me over the years struck out on their own and grew from there and evolved into their own businesses. And that's kind of cool to see.
It is. And, Long Island businesses like to do business with other Long Island businesses. We have a pretty significant import and export business, and you have your foreign trade zone here.
Yep, we do.
Canada and Mexico, like the rest of the country, tend to be our biggest trading partners, but China, Israel, and parts of Europe are important to us as well. And so it's always good when we're exporting to those countries because that means people are making things on Long Island, employing Long Islanders, and then selling them to other countries. It'll be interesting to see if the president's tariff wars with different countries will have a negative impact on some of those businesses. I'm sure they're keeping an eye on that.
I'm certain.
But they make up more of the minority. Most of the Long Island businesses tend to do business in the metropolitan area, and they depend upon a metropolitan workforce and primarily a Long Island workforce, which is good because we have the best educated and the best trained workers out here.
Well, absolutely, and the fact that we have such a huge investment in training those people, students who go through the school system here. It's not a secret. I'm not sharing anything that anybody doesn't already know. It's a high tax area here on Long Island. The cost of education is higher here than in other parts of the state and certainly in other parts of the country. So that when we can keep our students here, that money that we've invested is so very well spent. And organizations such as yours, primarily yours being the largest, provides that opportunity. You talk about businesses doing business with other Long Island businesses. Go to an event, at the Long Island Association sponsors, and you see people doing business all the time. You don't have to do it on the golf course. Go to a breakfast, go to a lunch. The events that you guys put on and the kinds of speakers and opportunities that you have for business owners, for the business community, is unparalleled, really, and we thank you for that.
Well, thanks. And networking is always important to growing your business. And so, we primarily exist for two reasons. One is we try to advocate for Long Island and for Long Island businesses, especially in Albany, a little bit in Washington, and our two county seats. But then, two, to provide networking events because, one, it's where people find partners to do business with, or businesses to sell their products to, or perhaps future employees of their own business. And so Long Island, we're a big area of 3 million people, but at the end of the day, we still get a lot of business done the old-fashioned way, networking. People like to sort of know who they're dealing with and who they're doing business with. So our organization provides that kind of opportunities for both big and small.
Yeah. And that's important, both big and small. We are going to take a little bit of a break, and we will be back with Kevin Law, the President and CEO of the Long Island Association, here at Supervisor Spotlight. Thank you. Hi there, this is Angie Carpenter, Supervisor of the Town of Islip, and welcome to this edition of Supervisor Spotlight. And in the studio today, we have Kevin Law, President and CEO of the Long Island Association. And if you caught our first segment, you'll know we talked a little bit about the LIA and what it does and its membership. And interesting statistic to learn that 92% of the businesses on Long Island, of the 100,000 small businesses, are 92% of the small businesses. So that's really great to know. But anyway, I was curious, and hopefully Kevin is not going to mind sharing, how does somebody come to be the guru of the Long Island economy, the president and CEO of the Long Island Association? You know, where did you go to school? You know, what got you interested in this?
You know what, Angie, it's amazing. I wish I could tell you it was all part of some great design plan.
Being in the right place at the right time?
It's a little of that, but you know, the old saying, man plans and God laughs.
Yep.
I never would have predicted parts of my career, but I've been very fortunate in many ways. One, come from a big, close family. I'm the fifth of 8 children.
Wow.
We grew up in the town of Smithtown, so just north of here. Having a lot of children. Suffolk Community College was really the school of choice and the only option.
Of course.
And so I started at Suffolk Community College, then got a degree there, transferred to Stony Brook University. Then from there I got my master's in planning, which got me involved with the real estate development on Long Island and housing and all types of issues like that. And it also got me my first internship with the New York State Assembly. And while working in the Assembly, I also went to law school at St. John's. And so I continued to work for the New York State Assembly. And the assemblyman I was working for, Pat Halpin, from Babylon at the time, in 1987. That's when he ran for Suffolk County Executive and won.
I do remember.
And on election day, the day he won was the day I found out I passed the bar exam.
How exciting that must have been.
It was. And so rather
gosh.
than going to work for a law firm at the time, I went and worked for the county. And that's where I got to meet folks like you and your colleagues, Ed Romaine, and the other town supervisors. And we worked together on housing issues and environmental issues. And those were the areas of my that came under my purview. And so spent 4 years with the county and then went to a big law firm, Nixon Peabody. And because of my environmental background, I worked in the environmental and energy practice group. Spent 12 years there.
Wow.
So I spent about half my career in the public sector, half in the private. Became a partner in the energy and the environmental practice group, and then working on all major environmental projects throughout the island and the east end of Long Island, as well as some of the major energy projects. And then I got asked to come back into the county government, again, when you were serving in the county legislature. And so I've done 2 tours of duty with the county of Suffolk. And while there, the governor asked me, because he knew of my energy background, to go and run the Long Island Power Authority, first as chairman and then as president and CEO. And it was funny. I remember going home to my wife, and she's like, "What do you think?" I said, "Oh, everybody hates LIPA. I'm not sure I want to do this." But it's always very tough when the governor asks you to do something.
It's hard to say no to the governor.
And again, he knew me as an energy guy.
Yeah.
So I said I would do it for a while. And I really helped transform LIPA into an energy efficiency and a renewable energy leader, whether it was in solar or wind. And really, Long Island to this day is still a leader in the entire state of New York in those areas. And then the Long Island Association recruited me. It was 2010, so I've been there 8 years.
Wow. Going
into my 9th year in September. You mentioned 2 predecessors before me. I'm told that after Matt Crossan, the longest serving president and CEO of the LIA. And so I've been there for going on 9 years. And I helped try to transform the organization into an entity to try to bring the Long Island region together, to understand the importance of supporting the business community because if people don't have jobs, we don't have to worry about a whole lot of other things. We need jobs here, and jobs then leads to people buying homes or living in apartments, and it's those jobs and those incomes that then support our downtowns and our local restaurants and our local pubs and our local businesses. And so I thought that would be a neat way for me to use all of my different public and private sector experiences together. And so far, so good. We have a governor, Governor Cuomo, who created these regional economic development councils. I was asked to co-chair that as well. And we've had a lot of success. Long Island has won. It's a competition with the other parts of the state
that I'm aware of. And
we have won out of 7 rounds so far, 6 out of 7 rounds, a total of about $600 million
that is absolutely huge.
Over 700 projects. And these projects help support local businesses grow, expand, help them retrain their workers, because workers have to constantly be retrained because the economy keeps on changing.
And technology is so huge now and so different from what it used to be.
Exactly.
And
you used to go to one company, maybe spend your whole career there.
Exactly.
Now maybe you can spend your whole career at a particular company, but you'll be doing
kind of careers.
Different types of jobs.
Yeah.
And so retraining and re-education is key. And so we help a lot of businesses with that.
Well, I think it's just so exciting. And I think the fact that you've had that involvement in both government and the private sector, and now working with both, is huge. And I think speaks to why the LIA is thought of in such positive terms as it is now.
Well, thanks for saying that, Angie. And, it is important. First, it's a lot about relationships. Long Island, the business and the political world are very intertwined. It's important for business folks to understand how politics works at the local level, the county level, and the state level, because folks like you understand the importance of being supported, so supporters of the business community, to make sure that they're growing, being a businesswoman yourself.
It's interesting. Today I was having a conversation. We've got a great problem in the town of Islip. A lot of people want to build, a lot of projects, there's a lot of excitement, a lot of things happening. But with that comes the problem of you're not moving the paperwork fast enough, and site plan review is taking time. So I had a conversation with the department heads, and I'm like, you have to understand that everyone wants services, everyone wants, but they don't want their taxes going up. So what is the solution? The solution is that you've got to grow the economy. And that is so important. And we really try to stay focused on that. So we brought people in part-time. I'm not a person for overtime if we can avoid it, but this is an area that is so important to kind of keep projects moving. And I think people appreciate that. And, having things like our business advisory board and hearing from people like Mitch Pally from Libby and hearing from the leaders in the business community firsthand what their issues are and what we can do to make things better, I think goes a long way, and we need to do that. We need to stay laser focused on the economy.
Yeah, I totally agree. You know what? I think it's very important for people like you and me. It's important that people in government have some private sector experience to understand how tough it is to run a business. Every day they open their door, it's they know how much it's going to cost to pay their employees, to pay their expenses, and where the revenues are coming in. And so government needs to be a partner with them and shouldn't be a hindrance to them. It doesn't mean that business should always get their way, or so every real estate developer should always get their way. But it's important that the folks in government be supporters of people who want to invest in our communities. Because when people want to invest in our communities, it means they're hiring local labor to either build or construct, local employees, to local neighbors to be the employees. And it's important because, and most businesses too, they get involved in the community. As you said, they're involved in the chamber like you were. They're involved in their local not-for-profits, their local churches or temples. And all the not-for-profit groups on Long Island, they look to the business community to financially support them. And so it's very important that the business community be supported, and then that the business community support the community back.
And they too, you mentioned the not-for-profits, they too are part of the business community. And recognizing that is so important when you look at the numbers of people that are employed in the not-for-profit sector.
Long Island's two largest employers on Long Island, three largest, are not-for-profit.
Exactly.
The Diocese of Rockville Center, Stony Brook University, and Northwell Health.
Exactly.
So they're all not-for-profit. And then you add up all the different not-for-profit groups, they make up 18% of our local gross domestic product here.
Hold that thought.
Sure.
We're going to take a little bit of a break, and we will be back with Kevin Law on Supervisor Spotlight. And welcome back to Supervisor Spotlight. I'm Angie Carpenter here in the town of Islip at our studios at Long Island MacArthur Airport. And with us we have Kevin Law, who is the president and CEO of the Long Island Association. And his real claim to fame, he's a member of a Long Island MacArthur Airport Advisory Board. And we're so grateful for that, Kev. We really appreciate the time that you spend with the advisory board.
I think we have a meeting coming up soon. I'm happy to be a part of it. And I know... First of all, you're doing a great job with the airport. You and Shelley have done a terrific job, and it's good to have the new leadership here at the town. The Islip Airport is so important to Long Islanders. I know it's owned by the town of Islip, but this is a Long Island asset.
Absolutely.
And we're really fortunate to have it here. Just pulling into these studios where we're taping this show at MacArthur Airport and seeing all the activity here and people getting ready to go off on flights to wherever. It's great because I'm one of those, I'm not a huge flyer, several times a year, not several times a month, but several times a year. Whenever I can fly out of Long Island MacArthur Airport, I do so.
Oh,
because, going into Kennedy or LaGuardia, especially with all the construction taking place, it's horrendous.
Oh, there's a lot of horror stories there.
Yeah,
especially
this is such a pleasure.
Now.
And the airlines that you're bringing in, the destinations that you're going to, it's great certainly for your Islip residents, but for all Long Islanders. And one of the things we've been trying to do as a member of your advisory group is to get more businesses to use Long Island MacArthur Airport, and they of course like to see more flights to give them more options. And so that's what becomes tricky, I guess, the chicken or the egg.
Exactly. They want more flights, but they're not going to get flights unless they're flying.
Exactly.
It's tough. It's
a beautiful airport. It's well run. It's clean. It's easy to get in and out of. It's inexpensive compared to the city. And now with Southwest and others, Frontier going to Chicago, Philly, or Atlanta, you basically can go anywhere you need to go in the U.S. by starting here in Islip.
I had someone the other day tell me that they had booked a flight on Frontier, and it wound up costing them less to fly to Florida than it would have cost them to take car service into JFK. So, because they really do have bargain fares if you time it right.
Exactly. So it's a huge asset for the region. We're lucky to have it. And what's great, too, is that with your help, and to his credit, we got Governor Cuomo to recognize how important MacArthur Airport is to Long Island.
And I think you said it a couple of times. It's important to the region. It's important to Long Island. And yes, it's our airport, and we love our airport, and we love the fact that we own the airport, but it's Long Island's airport. I really believe that. And I know that when I was in the county, I can remember sitting there with the rating agencies and touting all of the benefits of Suffolk County. And one of the benefits was, we have our own airport in Suffolk County. It wasn't the county's airport. The town owns it, but really it is the county's. It is the island's airport, and we see more and more people from the western end of Nassau County and even eastern end, rather, and even the western end, and some from Queens that are coming to use this airport. Those that live near JFK, I had a guy from Woodmere tell me, I saw him online at one of the inaugural flights, and I go, Woodmere? And he goes, it's easier for me to drive this way, talk on the phone in the car, and spend a few minutes on the TSA line than it is to find a parking space at JFK, pay what I have to pay to park, and then stand on the TSA line for an hour. This is a lot more civil.
Well, that's great. It's a great story.
It is a great story.
And so with your efforts to try to get more foreign flights here, if Long Islanders could go to Europe from MacArthur Airport, most would rather avoid New York City and do that. And then also trying to better connect the terminal to the Long Island Railroad at Ronkonkoma Station. I know I've been working with you on those efforts too, and somehow connecting, making it easier for people coming off the train there to get to this terminal. That's huge too.
Well, the governor has been great to us in that respect. We got a grant to put towards the customs facility, and most people don't realize that right now we have about 200 international flights flying in and out of MacArthur Airport every year, but they're not commercial. They're private, jets that are coming in and out through our partners here, Shelter Air, Hawthorne, all of those there. But the goal eventually is to be able to offer commercial. So we are in the process now of design. We're at the design phase of the new customs facility for the general aviation, and with the understanding that eventually we will be able to do international commercial. But the governor, made a commitment and invested and enabled us to get that whole project off the ground finally. It was something that was talked about for years. And I think his recognition of the fact that it is an economic generator for the region. It's not just little old town of Islip Airport. This is a regional economic generator.
And it's important, too, the governor has done that because the state's investing in other airports, upstate New York,
Absolutely.
and Stewart, and up in Rochester, not just the New York City metropolitan. So it's important that the state invest in our Long Island airport as well. That's owned by the town of Islip. So that's great to hear that. And I think Long Islanders, once they experience an easy trip to London, say, or Ireland or Italy from MacArthur Airport, they'll never go back the other way.
Well, the same way when, people do say that the customer experience here at Long Island MacArthur Airport is unparalleled. It really, really is. And once you've experienced it, you go out of your way, if you at all possibly can, to fly out of here. And quite frankly, with, Atlanta, with Philly, Baltimore, you can go almost anywhere. And if you factor it in, it may seem like, I've got to fly a half hour to Baltimore and then lay over for an hour. Well, factor it in. Isn't it easier to do that? Plan on having lunch at the airport, or bring your iPad and sit there and do a little work while you're waiting to get on that other flight than it is to sit on the Bell Parkway.
Definitely. And what people sometimes forget is, once you get on a plane here at MacArthur, pretty much you are number one for takeoff, or maybe number two.
Oh, that's it? You're spoiled.
Nothing worse than going to, say, the shuttle at LaGuardia at 7 o'clock in the morning and told you're number 18 for takeoff.
And you're sitting there.
And you just sit there. And then if it's bad weather, there's so much traffic trying to get in. And so you usually don't have that type of delay either coming or going here that you do in the city. So another huge reason why people should consider the entire travel experience.
Yep, exactly.
And all in all, less stress to me is worth money and time.
Well, that is our new slogan: stress less and pay less when you fly Long Island MacArthur Airport. And that's something else too. For the first time, we've had a professional air service delivery product going here, or project, where we're really focused on bringing airlines in. And as you know from being on the advisory board, it's a lot more complicated than just saying, hey, we're here, we'll be happy to, have your plane fly in and out of here to wherever. But you've got to quantify how they're going to be successful. You've got to do the legwork now. You've got to convince them that this is the right fit for them. So that all takes a lot of research and planning, and we're doing that. And it's paying dividends. It really is.
And I think you're being a little humble, Angie. It also takes leadership, and you are providing that leadership here at the town of Islip level by hiring professionals to then run the airport as well, and bringing in the business community to help advise you on some of the steps that you're taking. And that to me all shows and demonstrates leadership. And the successful towns or the successful cities are ones with strong leaders who also understand the need to partner with the business community. So my hat's off to you, and the great job that you're doing here.
Thank you. Well, no one can do it alone. Government can't do it alone. The private sector can't do it on their own. And certainly, residents in a community can't. And we need to come together. And, as far as the business community is concerned, you at the helm at the Long Island Association have pulled all of those sectors together. And, the proof is in the pudding. It's working. And we thank you for what you're doing in making Long Island the kind of environment, that businesses want to be at. So Kevin, I thank you so
Well, thank
much
you.
for what you
We're
do.
not out of
and
the
for
woods
being
yet,
here.
but we are pulling together.
We are.
And things are certainly, the glass is half full for Long Island.
Oh, it absolutely is
And
in my,
we need
in
to
my
continue
world.
heading in the right direction. And as you said, it's all about partnerships and relationships and not the petty fighting that goes on.
Absolutely. Thank
Yeah.
you so much, Kevin,
Hey,
for
my
being
pleasure.
here. And thank you for listening and watching Supervisor's Spotlight.